These canyon walls carry my tune. The only one to hear my song are the coyotes and the wolves. But if I drink enough of this flask, I can hear them sing your song too.
Well, hi, this is Robert Leiterman with the Bluff Creek Project. Today with me, I have Damon, a.k.a. Heavy D.
Heavy D, yes.
Well, what is that? Heavy D.
That was something stupid that started when a friend of mine a long time ago, a roommate actually, put me in his phone, get my number, put me in his phone. He said, I just have you in my phone as D. And then just, I don't know, out of nowhere, I just say, well, that's Heavy D to you. And since then, he always called him, hey, Heavy D. And so just for fun every now and then, I just throw that out there as something goofy to mess with.
That's cool. Yeah, my Robert backwards is Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I was called Trevor a while, and like Ian calls me Rob, and Jamie calls me Rob, and sometimes Rowdy calls me Rob. I pretty much respond to it. You know, it's like, no, it's Robert. All my brothers, I have 5 brothers, all of them go by their little nicknames.
Okay, yeah.
Tom, Jim, Tim, Rod, Don. Except for Robert, he's Robert.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I can't
funny.
help it.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My birthday's coming up here in July, so I'll be pretty old.
Yeah.
I'll be cracking some age gaps there. So maybe I'll go to Rob back then. You know,
Go back to Rob. Go all old and
recapture my
Christ,
youth. Go to Rob.
Oh yeah. Part of your midlife crisis.
Yeah, I got a list of those things I'm working on. I see you have one right behind you too. That's
Yeah, I got one.
We'll talk about that today too. Let's tell where we're at. So we're on at 12 and 13H. We've been up here pretty much about all week, and we're doing some in the field interviews. So we're doing in the field.
Mm-hmm.
I always say this, but I'll reemphasize. I like talking to people in the outdoors versus in a building. So that's and I appreciate it, Damon, for allowing us to do it outside.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're on this turnout. Here's the cell site we're calling it. It's at the top of 12 and 13H, and that's the road to the film site, which is just so we can see it right over there. It's got a little paddle marker, and it's a pretty wide area. And they said this weekend's supposed to be super hot, and it's getting there. So we're in the shade off the side with a little breeze. You can feel it.
Yeah, it actually feels pretty good.
Yeah, it definitely. If I don't look to my right, I don't have to look at the RVs parked here. But, I can look out this way and pretend like I'm in the middle of the wilderness. But we're kind of looking at an anniversary here, actually, because I met you about a year ago.
Yep. It was a year ago that I rolled up here with Terry, Lindsay, and company.
Yeah, they said all this guy's going to be showing up from Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, yeah, he's going to have an RV, and I always think, you're going to drive an RV up here?
Yeah, who's this jerk bringing the RV? How dare he? It's like, seems quite out of the ordinary, but, we're push the boundaries a little bit, or we're trying to break all kinds of norms about what people think things can do, or there's lots of that.
Right,
So.
I mean, having the comforts of home, yours isn't as big as Terry's.
I don't know. It might be a little bit shorter.
Okay, but yeah, by what, an inch?
Yeah.
But it's nice having the convenience of home here as a base station, because one time I was with Kip, and I'm a tent camper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm knuckle walker tent camper.
Yeah.
And we went up to Twin, and he was pulling this trailer, and we got snowed on.
Yeah.
And we stayed in it through the snowstorm.
Yeah.
And I vowed never to be a wimp and stay in a vehicle like that. But we watched a movie. We had cooked food. Yeah. It was warm. And I just swallowed my words. It's like, where can I get one of those? That's the next thing. So it was nice.
I totally scored on that. Now, I grew up tent camping too. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was awesome because when I moved to central Idaho, I was in 2nd grade, and then my mom started dating this cool guy that introduced us to camping and going to the lakes and stuff. And we traded in our yellow Pinto station wagon for a Datsun pickup with an 8-foot bed and a shell, and we put carpet in there and a couple bean bags. My brother and I just loved it. We went all over the place in that thing, and like I said, I grew up tent camping, and then ended up kind of acquiring. My mom ended up with this little slide-in trailer, or camper on her truck, and I ended up kind of acquiring that over the years, and it was fine for me. But then got married and married a city girl, and she needed a toilet. So we sold that and got a little 22-foot trailer, and that worked great for us. And then this thing here, this thing is amazing. We were just bored one day. We went down to the RV place, and just looking around at stuff just to see what was out there. And before we left, right at the end, this guy's like, well, we've got this thing these old couple traded in. They bought it new in 93, drove a gazillion miles. Now they came in and traded on the new one. And so we drove it. It was cool. It was retro, but my wife had just decided to go into real estate full time, and we were cutting back on expenses and monthly payments and stuff. And I really didn't want to add a car payment, much less storage. Too.
Right.
And they threw out a number. They threw out like $28,000 for it, and which is still pretty cheap for what it is. And I'm like, no, we're not. No, and we walked away. And they kept calling me back with a lower number, just lower and lower, and eventually it was $15,000.
Wow.
And my even my mom was like, "You're an idiot if you don't buy this thing. I'll buy it." You know, like, okay, fine. And so we traded in the little trailer, picked this thing up, and I have not been disappointed. I mean, we take this thing all over the place. It's very capable. It's built on a heavy truck, Oshkosh truck chassis. That whole the body's like is steel. It's like 8-inch like stainless steel, solid as a rock. It's got all the bells and whistles, big generator, bunch of AC. We've upgraded like the bed and the solar last year, and I mean, this thing just purrs, and it has been just bulletproof. In fact, we just spent 6 weeks living in it as we transitioned from moving to Boise to Spokane. Right. So it's great. So when I had the opportunity last year to try to take it out here, because I've come on a few of like cliffs expeditions and things like that, and you know, 10 camping's fun, but it gets old. I got this thing. Let me see if I can use it.
Well, I think it's actually good to see it up here because it's pretty diverse of what you can do with it. I'm always amazed. Like Terry was saying that she took her place up to Twin Lakes. I'm like, what? Up Slate Road. It's like, that's a death wish. It's like, well, you definitely tested it.
Yeah.
It's like, what happens if you like misjudged your length of your vehicle versus the turn to get height centered, and nobody can access the road? How are you going to get that thing? How do you back up once you commit yourself to?
Yeah, that's definitely a threat.
Yeah.
You know, you just like anything when you start this, like for what I do, is you have to almost like the discipline and the patience to stop and evaluate and make the more conservative, safer choice in a lot of things. So you just have to decide that that's what you what you're going to do.
Does that come with wisdom? With age.
Age, right? Yeah. Yeah, you know, same thing in my job. Like all the young kids, they knock out of the park with what they do, but sometimes, you know, you think about just the decision-making process sometimes.
Well, you have an interesting job. You're a pilot. Now, are you... Mm-hmm. I've seen you fly your drone. Mm-hmm. So when you say pilot, do you mean you're a drone pilot?
No, I am in commercial aviation. I fly for an airline here in the United States.
So that's why you handle the little drones so well. You're used to the bigger drones.
Oh, you sort of, yeah. It's the different. Yeah, I guess that it's a lot of that first person, you know, grown up video. Actually, I think my biggest thing with that is just first person growing up with video games, because you can see the drone and fly it around, but eventually you're not really looking at it. You're flying it through the first person view that the camera's providing. So
I remember, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I remember Rowdy's first drone. It was, you didn't have a screen to see what you're doing. You're pushing button, you're toggling, and you're looking to see where is it now. I can't see. Can you hear, Robert? Get the spotting scope out. We got to bring it back. You know? I disconnected the GPS because it keeps jerking around. We can't get good shots. And now it's like the one he has was kind of like yours too. You got the screen. You look at the screen and you have a camera that's working, and you can look down. And yours was unique because when you came in here, I think it was the night before I met you. I think it was. Yeah. We're down over at the berm camp, and it was probably, I'm guessing 2 a.m. I can't remember. I kept hearing the sound like a freaking drone. I go, what? Sounds like a drone. I'm looking, I see nothing. Of course, I'm not going to see a drone in the sky. Yeah. And I hear this drone. I go, man, what a weird sound I heard. Then I come back over here, and then I get to meet you. Yep. And then I see a little helipad. Like right now, I'm looking at you. You got the orange helipad, right, ready to deploy that to launch your bird there.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm going to fly my thing. I go, cool. And it takes off really cool. And you got lights on it. It's like a UFO. And you say, oh, yeah, it's got night vision capabilities. I go, what?
Yeah, it has
So you have a drone that can see heat signature pictures from the sky, and you can fly all the place, and you have GPS controls and a way to bring it back.
Yep.
And a warning sign to let you know when you're running out low on batteries. And
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, they call it. And it was originally designed for first responder types, firemen, policemen, things like that, to quickly deploy and either look at a fire, search and rescue, that sort of stuff. So it's kind of fun because it has attachments. It's got like a speaker. In fact,
or you can PA somebody.
Yeah,
down there.
Yeah. In fact, yesterday when those guys were down there, I wasn't thinking about it because I'd just driven 14 hours and got 3 hours of sleep. But I was going to fly it down. Like they were sitting at the picnic table. I was just going to fly it down there and have Kip yell at them, through the.
Step away from the table. Get your hands where I can see them.
Put those Oreos down. Yeah.
How's we have Oreos? That would have been me with there then.
Yeah.
It would have been me and Jamie. We were by the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, so it's got a spotlight, a strobe.
I saw that. That was cool.
And the speaker system, and it has a dual camera on it. It has a FLIR thermal imager as well as I believe it's a 12 megapixel camera. That when you start recording stuff, it takes video and thermal at the same time.
Wow, that's pretty slick.
So
not two separate screens? Or is
no,
it same?
it just at the same time it records it. You can toggle between which one you're looking at, like just the visual camera or the thermal camera. Great little drone, very capable. The thermal, I kind of wish it was a little bit more detailed. In fact, they just came out with a new advanced one, which is like, it has the 640 by 512 resolution. I finally saw some side by side of that, and it's night and day different. So I'm going to be saving my allowance again. Yeah, it's a great little drone.
Yeah, I was impressed by it, and it's a great tool for looking for heat signatures of things.
I like it. I do feel it. I feel it's like a little bit of a blunt instrument, though. As quiet as it is, like if you fly around in a normal situation in your suburb, in your backyard, your house, or something like that, I've got the better props on it. I've got all these kinds of things, and it's pretty quiet. But out here, it's very loud.
Because it's quiet.
Yeah, and it's even 200 feet up. It's pretty loud. So I don't necessarily know what. I find that animals like deer and elk don't seem to notice it. I've had horses turn and look at me, and they're half a mile away, and they'll look at what? They'll look at it. So I don't know what any other kind of critters would do if they saw or heard it. Bobo told me once that a lot of times when they would, say a Bigfoot or Sasquatch is being spotted by a drone, they just tear out of there and go run away. I don't know, but that hasn't been my experience yet. But I find it's really good to do things like when you get to a spot like this, daylight, just fly it around and get the lay of the land and see where stuff is. And you find stuff all the time that you had no idea was there. I was in over by Mount Hood last year, and we found this giant we were parked in this one spot, and not 50 yards to our left, and cleverly hidden behind some trees and a berm that was kind of right there, was this giant parking lot of flattened out stone that I think used to be a quarry, but the Forest Service had blocked off. But it was probably 100 yards across in a circle that a lot of people could stay there if you're clever about it. Or there's a body of water down below us that wasn't very apparent either. So
the first thing we do when we go to an area is we set up our base camp, and then we do some reconnaissance area during the day to see where we're going to operate at night and what the hazards are in the day, so you know. Yeah. But having that capability of bringing in the Air Force.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's invaluable. And you get up, you find out what's going on around you, and then you find spots you want to go maybe check out or go see that you didn't even know was there. And then what I was doing is at night then, because I have 3 batteries on this thing, so I'll use that first one for that first recon, and then I'll throw it in the backpack with me. And then if we're going to do like a road walk, we'll do the old, the 2 methods, right? You got the sneak in and pretend to be Bigfoot version, and then there's the stupid human version. And so you try to go out the road as the Bigfoot version, right? Quiet, maybe not knock
Yeah.
or two, and then you get to the end, and then you go, okay, we're stupid humans now. So then I'll usually launch at that point and just look around us with the thermal, and see if anything's attracted us. Anything looking around, and then maybe run the road up and down a few times until the battery's out, and then we'll walk back as stupid humans. And then maybe if I have the other battery, I'll fly it again once we're back at base camp, just to see if anything's following us or anything around that way.
That's the strategy's a good strategy because we'll go out looking for sign and taking our time and listening for things.
Yeah.
We get to a point and goes, okay, we're heading back, so let's go ahead and make noise and see if we get something to follow us back.
Yeah, change the
So
strategy.
that's a good strategy to do.
Yeah, but since its resolution isn't super sharp, and it is also that first version of it's similar to a FLIR Scout in how it sees thermal. It has the same, I would say, problems. So, like the hottest thing in the image is going to be white, right?
Right. Yeah.
It could be a cold rock, but it's the hottest thing, so it's going to be white. So what you have to do is you have to be slow and deliberate in your movement, and you have to just watch the blobs and see as the blobs start moving.
So basically, as a pilot, using thermal stuff, you need to understand how thermal works because you need to understand the depth and being able to identify things because I'm not the best thermal guy. I'm using night vision stuff. Been out with Bart before where he said, look at these 7 raccoons, and I find the moss that fell out of a tree. On the ground. And I miss all the raccoons because I don't understand the equipment.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the big things is being able to know what your capabilities are of your equipment.
Oh, totally. How many times have we heard of the guy that has, filmed basically the PG film in thermal, but then didn't know how to record it? Or something like that.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. So it's important that you take out your gear and practice with it. Figure out how your game cameras work. Put it on your fence line and watch the squirrels come put their butt in their face on the camera and stuff. It's kind of fun. So yeah, you have to be intimately familiar with your capabilities of what it can and can't do, and that takes a little bit of time and research.
It does. And also the other thing is practicing.
Yeah, practice.
Like you always go back to Roger and Bob, right? So here's Roger who's going to take this big old picture, right? He's planning it. When I see Bigfoot, I'm going to film it. And it was said that he practiced drawing his camera out of his saddlebag, and he left the saddlebag open to be able to pull it out quick.
Yeah.
So here's where training and practice comes in.
Totally.
Yeah, but for him, startled, the horse kind of gets unnerved. He can't control it very well, so he lays the horse to the side. He crushes his stirrup. If his foot's stuck in, he's got to get that free. That's a distraction.
Yep.
And then he's got to remember he's got a camera in a camera bag, so he gets that pulled out, lets the horse go, and now he's looking for the target, right?
Yeah.
It's over there, and he's running it to catch up to get a good position. I mean, that's practice.
But the muscle memory of grabbing the camera was he didn't have to worry about that part. It was automatic.
That's the same idea, in terms of law enforcement work or whatever, in terms of defensive tactics or anything. For you as a pilot, there's some things when some lights go on, you automatically go check something because that's what you do.
Yeah, the training kicks in, and you just do it. There's there's been stats. They're just that small. It doesn't take much to be prepared to have more knowledge about something else. Like in plane crashes, for example, passengers who actually will pull that card out for a second, look at where they're sitting, look at where the exits are, look at where that mask is, kind of refamiliarize themselves how all that stuff works, puts that away. It's been shown that these guys, like something happens, like in one particular example, there was 2 couples. One couple was partying, were on vacation, they're not doing shit, not paying attention to the flight attendants. The other guy was diligent, looked around, something happened. These guys got out fast, these guys didn't, and they perished.
There's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
That practice thing. I'm one of those guys on the airplane and go, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
This is the seatbelt. This is you put this little thingy in here. Those things fall out of the sky when it's bad. Put them on before you help somebody else.
Yeah.
And know where the exits are. No pushing and shoving. Be nice.
Yeah. It's important info, and we all do it. We all sit there, I go, I got my headphones in, and you're already tuning out the kid that's crying behind you. You're just like, this sucks. But it's so anyway. Back to the equipment, like you said, it's that practice with it, getting to know what it's like. And I've got a video I'll show you later. But I was out west of town in Boise. I was going to practice, and I was going to go look for deer. And so I headed up the valley and going the slow, and I saw a couple of heat signatures that were moving just a little bit, and then so I just waited and watched them, and then it turned. There were 5 blobs, and they started moving this way and coming down this trail.
Using a therm.
Yeah, using the therm.
Yep.
And so I started coming down on the altitude to get a little bit better resolution on them, and then I realized I was filming 5 people running down the trail with their dog. And you can see the feet moving and all that stuff, you know. So it's as a tool, it's very helpful for that kind of stuff like that. I imagine with the higher resolution, I would have picked them up if they were
Sooner.
where I was a lot sooner. But
So the unit you're using, how close did you get to these guys before you realized that they were just runners not moving?
good question. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
It's hard to judge. I know it's hard to judge distance. That's the whole thing about the therm idea is how far away are you? You know.
Yeah, I was pretty far up the valley, and then a little bit more off the. I think I started a couple hundred feet above them at least, and then as you get down, because you can see the funny thing about people wear clothes, and clothes block heat, and so their signature is not very bright. Whereas an animal like a cow or a horse that, they are very bright because they don't have that. Their fur fills up with that heat, and then so they're very easy object to spot. But people, it's quite interesting actually how hard they are to see.
Well, that thing comes up, like, I'll go back to when I investigated, it was Bart's therm sighting, his second one,
Yeah.
near the kill site, in
Yeah.
the Sierras, where you're looking at these signatures, you're like, well, I can't see any lines on them indicating different types of material for clothing, but they're all uniformly pretty much lit,
Yeah.
which is interesting. And then when we did the reenactment, we saw, like Kip, because he's 6'3",
Yeah.
he had a down coat that he wore, and it was in segments.
Yeah.
And you could see the segment section because the depth changes at the seams.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
things like that, and it was kind of neat to actually see that applied.
Yeah.
In terms of research, we also did an experiment with Bart. We did one in Washington with the Washington BFRO guys, and we put out paper plates with numbers on them for distances.
Yeah.
And then we had I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me later. Watch when it's all over. So he was operating the therm.
Yeah.
And it was the same type of brand that Bart used, same kind of model. And we walked out together. So Bart stripped down to his underwear, his trademark underwear, and socks. I stripped down to all my clothes, and because I was going to do that.
Right.
And so we walked out, and we all stopped at these different markers, and we stood there for a few seconds, and then we moved on to the next point.
Yep.
And the next point. And the whole idea of the experiment, Kurt Brandenburg, there you go, BFRO from Washington State, and he was a camera guy. So we're doing this experiment, and we have a video of it on the YouTube somewhere. But we want to see how far can you get with that brand before you can't tell the difference between clothed and non-clothed.
Right.
And that was a cool experiment. Our distance estimate was 100 feet. That was our thing.
Oh, really? So you basically were calibrating yourselves on what you could actually see
Right.
far and what the cable was. Yeah.
But we didn't take into consideration, because it's different, was the humidity in the air, because if there's more moisture, you get less clarity. A drier environment, you can see better.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Bart's therm sighting, and then you're looking at it was the Sierras. I think I want to say it was spring.
Yeah.
And his machine wasn't working as well, and so the clarity wasn't as good. And then of course here's Robert whining about maybe a monopod would be nice.
Yeah.
To hold it a little more stable. Yeah, but those little things like that. So therm is a great tool, and imagine before therms we were definitely using night vision.
Yeah.
And I got good at that, but you're out in a nice dark night with not much star because you have a slight cloud cover and your lighting's not very good. So you're pushing the infrared button, which is actually twisting a knob.
Yeah.
And now you've just reduced your visibility, and you're putting out a light frequency that a lot of animals can see.
Yep.
So the world has come a long way
Yeah.
by using therms.
Yeah. I think there are inherent problems with the IR because it's pretty apparent. In fact, Connor from the NABC Cliffs Museum, they last year, I think they on a trail they found a dead animal. I believe it was an antelope or a deer, and so they put a camera on it all year to see who was going to come and munch on this thing and what happened. And they noticed that during the day, none of the animals noticed the camera. Like they're on it, the various predators. But at night, every one of the animals turned and looked at that camera. Every single one of them.
So when it got activated, the light went on.
Yeah.
Illuminated the target.
Yep.
The camera took a picture of it.
Yep.
So we know there's a sound in there somewhere as well.
Possibly, yeah.
But the visibility of it, like we have the Bluff Creek Cam Project, and I know you're aware of it. And we get a lot of animals looking.
Yeah.
They cannot contact. Like at the park, I put up a camera on a goosepin tree that had water in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was water in there for 11 months a year. And the bears like to use it as their personal sauna.
Yeah.
We had mountain lions and everything moving the game trail. But
yeah.
when they came out, and it's one of the night shots, the bears didn't always react to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the cats and the deer definitely like, what the hell is that?
Hey, have you noticed that in your own work that during the day, not so they hardly ever notice it, but at night they almost all do?
Yeah, it's also quieter at night. So which always the big question is, I know it puts out a beam, I know they see it because they react to it. There must also be a different sound coming out of that thing that they can hear that we aren't hearing very well.
Possibly, yeah.
It's all electronic.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into technical because Jimmy and I can argue all day about my theories, which are dreams, and his are based on his scientific approach to it.
Right.
We never agree on certain things when it comes to, because I like to put the cameras high, and he likes to keep it lower. So we're looking for humble martins, which don't fly through the air, so you keep it low.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking for bad guys, so they can't see the camera, so I put them high.
Yeah.
So that so they won't look up.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to shoot the angle down. So we've had success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not that we argue about it. It's just that we all have our different ideas of putting up, for what purpose.
Right. Right.
They both have their merits. Like I like to cover the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamie doesn't like me covering the cameras because if you don't monitor your camera for a while, then debris gets pushed down, the rain, the snow, and then you come back and your cameras, you can't even find it. It's just camouflage.
Yeah, yeah.
That beautiful branch you tucked away to make it look like this nice little funnel is now sagged with snow and pushing in it. All the rest of the shots are
it's dark.
Are bad. And then at night when the flash goes off, and the branches are in the way, and all you see are those white branches.
Yeah, it exposes it. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, so, that's definitely catch-22 there because, I think, so last year was pretty funny for me, that entire trip was, Terry and I were going to do something different because prior to that point, we've always, with Cliff's Expeditions, if you have things like that, you camp someplace in the base camp, you go find some spot to go investigate, walk the road, and then you come back to your base camp. This time we're going to camp in their backyard. Like wherever these spots we used to go, we're going to camp there instead. We're going to camp in Tom's Meadow. We're going to camp in, these various places that we've gone to, like Mount Hood and here. And with the point being that doing the stupid human version of having them come to us and we're in their backyard, so now we're in their living room, so now maybe they're going to be a little bit more interactive.
Yeah, to investigate you, kick you out.
Yeah, right. So I think we found some success in there because on the audio, a lot of times, almost every night, something was coming in, sniffing around. You can hear steps. You can hear, the didgeridoo, for example. The last night in Mount Hood, something was moving quickly between her car, and then we'd come to this chair, and then tinker with this, and then you hear the didgeridoo go doom, 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 a couple noises on that, and a couple steps go back over there. So something was always coming in, and I think the mistake I made, and this is my other theory about game cameras.
Yeah,
as well.
No problem.
I think a game camera by itself on that tree out over there is out of place for the space, and if they are observant and as intelligent as they are, either they're already watched you put it there, or it's just out of place and they're gonna see it. Whereas I think in this environment where we're sitting with the campers and the things like that, I think it's just another human thing,
right? Like
your cup or your chair. And so I think that you can get some success with that if you can bring them to you. I think the mistake that we made is that we were pointing them out on what I thought would be a good approach. But I'm not Squatch. Who knows how I'm going to come in here or anything like that. And then who knows if I'm going to be even walking. They might be crawling in,
Yeah.
And so basically every night as things came in, they were milling around our stuff. They avoided the inroads that we had set up because we got nothing. And this thing was dinking around. I had one camera sitting here facing that way. I mean, right there. And this thing was right here messing with this, behind it. So this year, everything is pointing in.
Well, my philosophy is if I don't want them messing with me or anybody getting close to me, I put cameras facing out.
Yeah.
That's my force fields up.
Yeah.
And I've learned to put them facing in, just outside the line where we won't activate it, but if something's coming in, it might activate it.
Yeah.
And that works well for me because the only hard part is don't just wrap a strap around the back of a tree. Strap around the back of a tree. One thing about clusters of trees, you can always take advantage of some of the clusters and hide the best you can. Just covering the backside. So it's a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surprise. But yeah, and also putting cameras in my car, I just stick it on the bumper.
Yeah.
It looks like a winch.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're expecting something there, and if they're going to keep a distance for the car, they'll keep a distance. But I'll just throw this out too, because when I investigated Bart's Therm, 2012, at the kill site, I think it was 12, he had cameras deployed. He had them facing out, but he put them on his car.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, based on his therm footage of shooting through the gap past the site he was at, we saw that the heat signatures had gone back and forth around. They were surrounding back and forth on the camp.
Okay.
They walked in between his car and the camp.
Yeah.
If they would have walked on the outside of the car, maybe we'd have a picture or something.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Yeah.
So my suggestion for him in the future is to put it on the car facing towards camp.
Yeah.
Versus facing the car out of camp.
Yeah. See, 'cause that's exactly the same. We don't know how they're going to come in.
No idea.
What they're going to do it. I mean, what makes sense to us may not make sense to them at all. And so,
like we're sitting right now, we have this gap. We know that's the game trail.
Yeah. I've seen a ton of deer through there.
And the obvious thing is to put the camera on the game trail.
Yeah.
But in reality, maybe that's, if you're looking for something a little more smarter than a deer, maybe that's not your target area. Maybe your target area is more straight across an edge.
Yeah, sure.
Or something totally different.
Where could you ambush that deer there? Maybe over there instead.
Yeah, like I was actually for 3 nights I was camped right here.
Yeah.
And that buck
Yep.
you're talking about came up that last night. I think when you guys came in, it was right after you came in. I think it was.
Yeah.
It's like it's like, and then it went and ran through here, and it stopped right over there, and and did his huffing.
Yeah, pumped stuff up. Yeah.
Like, translation. Whew, wow, we made it through that one.
Yeah. I just ran the beach in Normandy. I did it.
Yeah, and it huffed quite a bit, and then it moved this one, did some more huffing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, definitely a buck, heavy, and it's just huffing away, and it's like, that wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
But it was just like, he's having an emotional thing there.
Yeah, he's nervous.
Because we aren't normally here.
Yeah.
And this is his path, and here we are. The night before, he couldn't go through here because we chased it off with our lights because we were trying to see the rack on the buck.
Yeah.
And he wasn't appreciative. And then, so he took another attempt at it, and it was, last night. No, the night before last.
Yeah.
And then he came through it. So it's kind of fun dealing with the cameras and trying to be smarter than the average bear and stuff. But again, it's an adventure. And if we knew how we had it down to a science, we'd have a bunch of evidence to prove that. But
yeah. I think as we learn more about these things versus personal experiences, that you start collecting little anecdotes from people and you put it all together in one body of knowledge. And I think over time we'll find the secret. Now whether or not I ever want these things to ever be recognized, I don't know. I can imagine just the bureaucratic nightmare that would come along with that.
Well, in governmentese, there's always a nightmare of you confirm something and then you have to deal with it.
Exactly.
And then what is that dealing with it? Does that dealing with it mean closures? Does that dealing with it mean new rules and regulations?
Oh, it's going to be that.
Does that dealing with it talk about access? Do we get our access limited based on if it's proven to be a threatened or an endangered, and there's not very many and they live in an area, will we not be allowed access to that area?
Right, yeah.
I mean...
I'd almost just rather leave it to people who want to go look. Yeah.
And why ruin it, a good thing?
Yeah. Let's
let everybody run around looking versus telling them it's out there. Let's think of it this way, the fairy tales. We all grew up with fairy tales, and they were scary.
Yeah.
Did the guy who wrote them, Mr. Anderson, did he make this stuff up, or did he base it on stuff he learned in folklore? And what is folklore based on? Is it based on stuff people make up for what they don't understand, or is it based on something that somebody experienced a long time ago, and now it's a story, and now it's shared, and now we don't believe it because we call it folklore?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of that.
So if somebody believes in a superior being, then you have to believe that there's a devil, right? And so if there is a guy who creates things and these things who try to ruin your life, could there also be ghosts? Could there also be this? Could there be that? If dinosaurs walked on the earth, why can't there be a Bigfoot? Yeah. So now you're going through this, thing going, it's scary out there in the dark. Maybe there really are something out there in the dark that we shouldn't be out in the dark.
I think it's great. I think we need that, really. I mean, look at our stupid world now of just Instagram and social media and everybody all being, I don't know, selfish, I suppose, in a lot of ways. And it's just kind of sad. And now to come back to nature and actually realize what an amazing world we live in versus the one that's in here, in your phone.
Yeah, we just pop our phone out. We get our fix by watching some outdoor movie that someone else filmed.
It's so easy to grab your phone and be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Than where you are. I mean, nobody's present anymore where they're at.
Yeah, which is nice to go to a place with no cell reception because it forces you to listen to Leiterman around the campfire more than checking your email.
Right.
Yeah, it is a scary thing when it comes down to that. And I grew up afraid of the dark as a kid, and that's something I had to fight with and get over and accept.
Yeah.
I still have those fears of being running into something you don't want to at night, but you take safety precautions. So.
Yeah. Well, who hasn't done that, right? You're a young kid, you're 6, 7 years old, and you wake up in the middle of the night, you have to go to the bathroom, but man, there's that giant spider in the corner, you can't get around to get to the door.
Yeah, the urban wilderness with the wild predators or spiders and ants.
Yeah. That spider turns out to be your jacket on the couch you left there or something instead. When you finally give up the courage to jump over, turn the light on.
Oh, I remember being scared, pretty much. I come a long way, I remember one time I was so scared because we had to knock on the door. I sent my brother down with the shoe and I was behind him. My younger brother. I've come a long way, Robert. And I got a couple things to ask you too. Is we all start out getting into Bigfoot for some reason. What got you into it? What was your start?
So, my real start was when I saw one on a motorcycle ride between Boise and Joseph, Oregon.
Was it riding the motorcycle?
I was on the motorcycle. Yeah.
You were on the motorcycle.
I was on the motorcycle. Yeah. But I mean, prior to that, just like any other kid, we were fortunate enough to where I grew up in Sun Valley, Ketchum, Idaho. We had this amazing resource of this community library, and we went there every week, at least once a week. And of course, they had all the section with all the books and all the stuff. So it was all the cryptid stuff, all the ghost stuff. It was just always checking that out. So I was always pretty open-minded to all those things. And the motorcycle ride was when I saw that one, and that was actually pretty amazing. I mean, unexpected, obviously. I'll just tell it. I had always wanted to ride this road. That was it's a pay-for service road that goes up from like Hell's Canyon, around up and over the Wallowas, and drops down into Joseph, Oregon on the backside.
Okay.
And so I ended up with an opportunity to do it. I had to go try to pick up my daughter that was at the ranch up there. My stepfather's family has a ranch that's going to beam the lake in Joseph, and she was there for the weekend, and so I had to go get her because my other daughter did the only bratty thing I think she's ever done, which was just leave her behind to go visit her boyfriend in Moscow.
Moscow, Idaho, not Moscow, Russia.
Yeah. So anyway, so I took the opportunity to ride it, and middle of the week, it was great because there were no cars. Middle of the afternoon, like it is now, and as I came around this turn, it was a straightaway, and as if you ride a motorcycle, what you always do is you're always sweeping the road for danger, rock, whatever. And in this particular instance, as I looked up the road, it was a straight shot of about 50 yards, and on the left side of the road, I had a straight line of lodgepole pines. I mean, they couldn't have planted them more perfect in a row. And as I looked up the road, on the left side up high, there was half of a black ball, kind of retreated behind the tree, and then kind of exposed tree behind it. And of course, like, what the heck is that? Wasn't going super fast, so I started slowing. It came off throttle and started slowing down. And as I get to this space, there's a gap in between the two trees, probably 10, 15 feet across. Burrow pit, pine tree, and right in front of that, with its back to me, was this. It was still taller than I was on the bike, so I'm guessing 10-ish feet.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Freaking gorilla. standing right there. And it had the classic triangular broad shoulder. I didn't see what was the head, but just kind of a triangle. Huge shoulders, arms like about as big as you, just long down the side, all the way down them to kind of cupped hands, like they weren't like this, or they were like this.
Kind of like, was it like just by its side relaxed, or was it hanging on something?
Just hanging straight down. But they went down past his knees.
Wow.
I mean, like all the way down there. And this guy was buff, super athletic. I just remember right shoulder, skinnier waist, just muscle and hair, like a very dark gray hair that was. I don't know if you've ever seen that one picture. It's supposed to be a game cam photo of like an old. It almost looks like an old.
Oh, I have. I think of many years ago, Bart showed it to me. That had a lot of gray in it.
Yeah, a lot of gray, but he's also kind of thin. The hair's kind of thinning.
Yeah, like almost like not mangy, but just like bald.
Yeah, but that's the hairstyle. That type of hair. It was like that. It was dark gray, and it was just like it was right there, and I'm like, holy shit, So.
And you got up your bike yet? Or
yeah, I hit the brakes.
Okay.
Came to a stop. Helmet, headphones, like
what
is
all
all
that
this
stuff
crap,
off.
right? Oh my God, how much do I have on? And I get up and I'm looking straight ahead, and in front of me is the trees kind of get a little bit wider. They're thin there, but then they start getting a little bit wider, and there's a field back there. I can tell I kind of see through a little bit, and I'm thinking, this thing's got to be right in front of me.
So when you took your stuff off, it kind of disappeared. You didn't know where
it was quiet. It was just dead quiet. And I'd stopped probably 15 yards past the point when I finally came to a stop.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I haven't seen anything. So I actually yelled out. I just said, "Hey, that was really clever." Because honestly, if I hadn't seen the movement, he could very well have just blended into that tree as a thing as I went by.
When you first saw it, did you think it was a person?
No. No, I knew immediately it was not a person or a gorilla or any of that. I knew immediately what it was. It was just like there was nothing else it could be. It wasn't a bear. Wasn't any of that stuff. It was had a very distinct look about it. And so I listened for a second, and then I walked back to the gap. It's not there anymore. And I had that first iPhone 3G. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go right, I'm gonna go this way, and it probably went over there, right? And I take like one step, and then right then, like every cell in my body just screamed no. And I kind of went, and I just kind of turned left. Took about 2 steps, and then behind me, back to the right, back where I thought it was, I start hearing these heavy footsteps start walking away. Just boom, boom, the thump, you feel it. And just then a car came, and I was parked in the middle of the road, so I kind of had to deal with it. And so that moment was over, but then I was like, oh my, world's different now.
Release the Kraken.
Yes.
And so that's awfully brave to, knowing what you thought you saw, to go approach it. I mean, what were you thinking?
I don't know. I wasn't afraid of it. I'm still not afraid of them. I hear people talk about, you hear some stories about some people when they are approached by them or they see one. And I think a lot of their entire life view changes, and most of the time, like especially like when you hear hunters have an encounter, because like at that point they are the apex predator, even though they're the hunter. Even though maybe in the woods or not, like between the mountain lions, the bears, really the only thing that is setting them apart is that they have a firearm. But they get this idea that they are the master of the woods, and then when something shows up that is, and it changes their complete idiom, you find them they're afraid they won't go back in the woods ever again, and just completely wrecks them. But I don't feel like that at all. In fact, every one of the various times I've had interactions or seen them, I've in fact on this one, I thought half a second of the one in the KOA. I thought half a second of chasing it down and tackling it.
I can't see that's high on my list.
Probably not a good idea, really. I mean, rip my head off, but.
Now, why would you do that? To pull a hair sample off, or?
Yeah, I was going to just grab it and come up with a handful of hair.
But see, you don't have to prove it to yourself anymore. So, are you at a point now where you feel the need to prove it to other people?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
So why would you run after and tackle it?
Because. Well, that one was that was an interesting situation because it was the KOA campground, and it had walked by.
So this is a second encounter.
Yeah. So I've had 4 interactions now. So after that one kind of really put me on the path. And then my buddy Rob Bizzuto, I kind of reconnected with him on Facebook, and he was talking about some stuff because he had an incident where he ended up getting lost in the woods around McCall, spent the night. Something was tracking him along the ridge line, occasionally making some noise, and he spent the night looking at him with red eyes, like glowing eyes, all night long at the fire.
So glowing meaning reflecting off the fire.
Yeah, eye shine. Yeah, red eye shine. Right. So he that got me into it, and then he moved forward, and he even ended up on an next episode of Finding Bigfoot as well in northern Idaho. It was kind of funny. So he's kind of helped me along in my journey of moving forward and meeting these people. In fact, that's where I met Cliff the first time. We went to the 50th anniversary of Willow Creek, and then his expeditions, and I've kind of just moved on forward into some other stuff. But it was right before the Willow Creek thing when we were staying at my wife and I love to go to Astoria, and there's a KOA campground up there that's awesome.
That's right off the Columbia River there.
Yeah.
Astoria.
Yeah. And this is kind of out on the peninsula. And in this particular case, I was actually sick. I picked up a flu from a guy I flew with that week, and he shouldn't have been at work. He really wasn't. I was kind of mad at him. But so I'm sleeping on the couch because I'm hacking, coughing, and eating all that stuff. And we had a new dog, Norman the pug, and he was 6 months old or so, and I'm still trying to figure out his bathroom habits. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning. He's like, dude, get up. So I step out of the RV, and I have a picture of the scene I'll show you, but I'm just down there, and he's in the yard kind of doing his thing. I'm looking out, and there's a few street lights in the background, and right in front of me is a road, and then there's a piece of machinery that's encased in a fence, which was running at the time. It's actually pretty loud.
This was making noise.
It was making a lot of noise.
So it's like covering up your movement.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then there's a small shed, and then over to the right of that is a shelter with some tables that people clean fish and stuff on.
Fish gutting station.
Yeah, fish gutting station.
Yeah, that's not what they're called, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting there, and I realize that there's a figure walking along the edge of the road. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's got this distinctive big arm swing movement. It's not moving fast, but it's covering a lot of ground at the same time. And then I also realized it's taller than the fence. Mm-hmm. And it's also like black, like it was like sucking in the light. There was no light variation whatsoever to it. There wasn't like a guy wearing jeans, a hoodie, and a backpack. None of that stuff. There was no variation to it. It was just black.
So it's not like sometimes like the ravens, they'll fly in the sky, that sun will hit them just right, and they'll look kind of white. They'll kind of get that flash. But this is like absorbing the light versus reflecting it. Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of leading to a theory about I have IR cameras and IR night vision. But I'm watching this thing walk across, and now I realize what I'm looking at. I'm like, this is the only thing it can be. Is that there's a Sasquatch walking across here. And obviously the sound of this thing covered my getting out of the RV and moving because it didn't notice me. And I'm like, all right, phone's back here behind me in the RV. I can just run and grab it real quick. And then I realized it's so dark, it's so black. It's that if I take my eyes off it, I'll lose it.
So we're talking. This sighting is at night.
Yeah, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna watch it. And I don't want to lose it. I'm just gonna watch what it does. And it walked over to the fish cleaning station, squatted down, flipped the trash can outside, rummaged through it, and then it went back around to the other side and kind of up the road. And that's kind of what I was thinking. I could chase this thing down at this point because it wouldn't hear me coming because this thing's making this noise.
Right.
And bam! I could just tackle it.
Tackle it.
I'm like, okay, fine. But I watch it walk, and then it gets under the street light on the road that's down there.
Yeah.
And if you can just imagine. If you could take Patty, and if you can imagine just turning her to the back, like just the whole rotate all that to the back, and a little bit skinnier, that's kind of what I saw walking away with the long arm swing, the pointy head kind of a thing. So I suspect this guy has a route. He's got a dumpster diver route, and he just goes through, and he hits these places, and So I left the game camera up in that thing, and the rest of the week we were there, and I came back the following year, kept the same spot, but they had changed some. They built some buildings there, so they kind of changed the routes. Whether he's coming through there again or not, I don't know. I'm just using he particularly.
Yeah, but you don't know, sure.
Yeah.
Like the earlier footage of the Patterson film, the earlier shots show a back shot.
Yeah.
Would you say that would be a good example? Some of the earlier frames.
Probably I have to look at it to refresh myself.
It's on the left side. It's kind of a distant thing. It's not real close.
Yeah, I'd have to refresh my memory on that.
Okay.
Probably. You know. But I had that long. It's that distinctive walk. The walk is very distinctive. You know, when they're walking. So that's that first thing. But that's what I saw walking away, and but that brought me to the fur, the blackness of it.
Yeah, you said something about the IR or
well, doesn't Dr. Meldrum's work, I believe, on fur samples, like hair samples, and in hair that are suspected to be Sasquatch hairs.
Yeah.
There's a difference in them, right? I forget what it is, but they're missing something in the inside of it that we have.
Medulla oblongata, or not medulla oblongata, the
Medulla,
strand.
Medulla,
So I know we have scales on our hair, and then some of the shafts are hollow.
Yeah.
And then some. So is it something similar to that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I think they're missing something in that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it is something that absorbs light a little bit. I think it reduces their visual signature somewhat. Because I back that up by looking at, like, how many times have we seen film of a IR camera looking at something right there, and you see the eye shine of it, but you can't see the outline of the figure. I think it, in some way, either absorbs it or it doesn't really reflect it, that band of light.
That sounds like a whole new thesis right there.
Mm-hmm.
Angle of hair, how light is affected by the angle of hair.
Yeah, I'd be really curious. I'd be really curious to see if Meldrum would do that, like look at some of those hair samples and maybe just apply some light to them and see what kind of reflectivity come off of it. I'd be really curious to see that, because I don't know how many times we've done that. Like even Expedition Bigfoot, there were a few times when they had some really good eye shine and something moving right there, and the camera's looking right at it, and it's only right over there, and yet you're not seeing the form.
I think it's sometimes with the infrared, it reduces its distance.
Yeah, of course.
Record it, that could affect it, and then the lights.
Yeah.
Even though we can't see it.
Yeah.
There's a frequency, and it's enough that maybe the eyes see it back or whatever, reflect off it.
Yeah. The first time I noticed that was in a Ghost Hunters show. This is one of the most interesting. They didn't know they were investigating Bigfoot, but they thought it were ghost stories. And they went. I forget, season 13 something. They went to some Friday the 13th, camp, kill everybody someplace, right? Yeah. And they're talking about the things that were going on. They're hearing, voices, thumps were happening on the cabin walls, all this stuff. And as I'm watching this thing, I'm going, it's not a ghost. And this is the first time they were excited about taking a GoPro, because they normally walk around with a therm at night on the stuff. And they said, well, we had this new GoPro, we put an IR camera on it. So we're going to watch around with this thing. And they walk into this central field, and they're looking around. They look left, and bam, right there. Huge eye shine, 10 feet off the ground, just right there. And they're going, what's that? I don't know. And they kept on going,
We're only here for the ghosts.
It's like the one time you don't bring the thermal, you could have had the best therm ever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys. But again, eye shine, no form.
That's something definitely to look into, because I know there's a lot of people who have their ways of doing research.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's any perfect way.
No.
We're not all experts,
Yeah.
and we're still a learning field. So I think all the feedback is good.
Yeah.
People ideas. Yeah, different things. I got a couple more things I want to ask you too.
Yeah.
Because of your drone,
Uh-huh.
you kind of hooked up on a gig here after you were doing your drone thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And you were helping out on the show with Rowdy and Bobo on something.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to talk about that, or?
I have no idea. I didn't sign anything, so I probably can.
Oh, well, we'll just keep it simple. You got a chance to be part of this the show, and you also did some thermal work for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the whole idea of having you there.
Yeah. Rowdy texted me out of the blue one day, telling me that he was working on part 2 of
some show that
Robbie Knievel and Bobo are out finding Bigfoot UFOs, and I thought that was hilarious. So I'm like, yeah, this will be fun. Why not? I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
And jumped the RV, hauled ass down there, and Yeah, that was a long day too. It was like a 12-hour drive to get there. To Mamba Lake is where it was.
Yeah.
And almost exactly 500 miles from my doorstep. And beautiful country, it really was. And yeah, so this bit is actually pretty amazing. We met this interesting guy named Denny. And if I'm even a tenth of 5% cool as Denny is, I'd be happy.
He's the guy with the big, cool 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. They met this guy in a parking lot at the mall.
Driving over cars. No,
Yeah, with his Jeep.
I'm just throwing it out there,
Yeah, and the story of the Jeep's actually interesting because he said he, so just back in context, basically it's Bobo and Robbie, and they're just doing their investigation through the Sierras, and they meet Denny, and Denny helps them now. So they're driving around Denny's Jeep. And at some point in the movie, he does explain his Jeep, and basically what he was driving around a 58 something Willys or whatever, and it came out of gear, scared the wife to death, and she goes, "Fix this." He goes, "Okay," and so he proceeds to spend like $100,000 on this thing, chopping 2 Jeeps together, big motor, big tires. It was pretty crazy. And he had an interesting name for it. He named it something. He named it Bandula. And then it was named after an elephant that, as a story he had read when he was in school. And it was a pretty amazing story. So World War II, the Japanese are invading Burma. The British are trying to get out and get their families and friends, their helpers out. And there was this particular company that used elephants to harvest, do lumber work with. And so they need to get all these guys out too. So they start walking up this river valley. And they come to a point where there's a waterfall straight in a cliff. They're stuck. Japanese are behind them, cliff in front of them. What are they going to do? And the handler for the lead elephant named Bandula, he's like, "Bandula will climb that." Like, what are you talking about? And so they spent the next day or two actually hacking out steps in the jungle up this cliff. Brought Bandula up to the front, had all the elephants kind of tied in line behind him, and he sat there and he stared at those steps for hours, just looking up and down. And then he started up and led all these elephants to safety up these steps. And so he named his Jeep Bandula.
That's a pretty cool story with that.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The first Robbie Knievel program with the Bigfoot and Bobo, I got a chance to be in that. That was
I saw that.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And the second one, Rowdy was in the second one.
Yeah.
So he was in the first one too. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I don't think it's out yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
It's not out yet that I know of. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. But so what Rowdy wanted me to do was to, as part of an attribute of Bandula, was to have this thermal drone, because Bandula has 2 thermal imagers on. He has one of the R2D2 pods on the front.
Yeah, they're like,
the pan and tilt 360 on the front, and then he's got just one out the back, and he's got these 2 monitors on his dash so you can see them. And so they get to a point where they're in the story where they're looking for Rowdy actually, and they say, "Well, let's go find him. Guess what I got?" And he pushes this button, and then I launch the drone off the top of the thing, and I fly around and look for all that stuff.
That's kind of cool.
And we ended the movie in a really funny way. And,
don't
I'm not going to tell it about it, but it was. I had a good time that night. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Talking to Rowdy about it too, and it sounds like a fun to be had by all.
Yeah, it was.
Which is good. That's good.
And it was kind of funny the way it went down, because they were looking for like options, and then I kind of raised my hand.
Look, I'm option 3.
I go, "Here's an idea," and then they totally ran with it. It was awesome.
That's kind of like when I was helping them finding, not finding Bigfoot, although I was on that one, but a Willow Creek movie where they're out filming, and I go, "Have you guys thought about this?"
Yeah.
And after a while, it's like, "Have you? What do you got?" Which is, it's fun, because when it works, it's good, and they look upon you for more information on it and stuff.
Yeah, it was really interesting insight. I never, watching a production work, watching the personalities interact.
Yeah, so in your second career, you think maybe acting's up on the line there?
Yeah, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to drop everything I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Hollywood.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, work for Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, acting? I better go to school for that. Well, I acted like I was a ranger for years. I guess I could act like anything else. Yeah, I act like I'm interested in Bigfoot, Yeah, I act like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's all fun. I think the last thing I got for you is, I'm looking right behind you is an e-bike.
Yes.
And you built that.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking at, it's got super large tires. It's kind of that OD green. It's got a nice black touch to it. And talk to us about that thing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's named Daryl.
Daryl.
I call it Daryl.
Now, why is it Daryl?
Well, duh. Bigfoot. It's Daryl.
Oh, based on the commercial.
Yeah.
My name is Daryl.
Okay. Well, I'm Daryl. I'm a Sasquatch. I'm Daryl. So I call it Daryl. So Jamie's bike. So last year, Jamie was running around his, and he had built one.
Yes. Two of them. Built two of them.
Yeah. So
keep his wife happy. He had big too.
Yeah. I might be in the same boat as myself, but so I was inspired, and I was looking for something to do this winter. So I started putting parts together. I picked up a Mongoose fat tire bike off of. I mostly Amazon stuff because local e-bike stuff is hard to find. So I picked up the frame, bought each of the parts individually, got a rear drive, like a 1500 watt rear drive, huge battery, it's like 50,000 milliamps or something like that. And then I just started assembling it. I took the frame apart, had a local shop powder coat it, the olive drab color. A buddy of mine does vinyl stickers, and he made me, there's a few subtle stickers on it. And I started putting all the pieces together, and because I thought at the time I wasn't towing anything with the RV. I thought maybe an idea. I thought about getting it like a Honda, like a Power 90 or something like that. But when I saw the e-bike, that's great. I can have something I can put some miles on if I need to run into town or something, or go somewhere else and not drive the RV. So I thought it was awesome. And this is its first
maiden voyage, if you will.
Yeah, this is trial by fire out here, and we've already learned a few things about it.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your adventure yesterday on your bike.
Down the hill with my hair on fire?
Yeah. And the brake's not working?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
the brakes are underpowered. We're going to work on that.
And then getting to the bottom and going, hey, it doesn't want to ride back out.
Yeah, no, it didn't. Yeah, so we it had a little a warning light on the...
Yeah, an exclamation point.
Exclamation mark surrounded by stuff that looked really bad. And we just assumed that maybe it was not connecting to something, because it connects to... the inputs into the controller, there's about 5 or 6 of them, and so we were just checking them all, making sure everything was all connected, and still wasn't going. And unfortunately, after going all the way down the hill, learning the brakes are way underpowered.
And they're important.
Obviously. Was fortunately able to come to a stop at some point with...
room to spare.
A little bit. And then... figuring I would have to get a ride back up the hill and having to leave it at the bottom of the hill because it wouldn't go anywhere. And then I did a little research and discovered it was saying that the brakes were on.
So it's almost like a safety feature.
It is. It had an interrupter. Yeah. So it thought the brakes were on, so it was interrupting the drive.
That's good, because sometimes we need divine intervention to step in.
Yes.
And help us with our decision-making process.
Exactly.
Now, the neat thing about this bike, I think first time I ever rode one of these was last year, a year ago.
Yeah.
And I got to ride Jamie's bike.
Yeah.
And then about 20 minutes later, I returned. And I loved it. I go, where do I sign up for the contract to get one of these?
Yeah.
But I haven't got one yet, but it was very nice. And one thing I like about these things, what little experience I had with them, is that you could travel longer distances, you can be quiet, you can save your energy, and you can cover more terrain, and you can use it at night, in the day, and cover some stuff. A bicycle is quieter than a car, and so it has its advantages. Yeah.
I do wish that the click, the gear click as it goes, as you're just coasting down the hill, was quieter. I find it to be kind of loud. I wish it wasn't quieter. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but you also have the sound of the tires on the gravel.
Yeah.
You can't disguise that because it goes whizzz, so there's stuff like that that's just going to just go slower, and you won't have that big noise.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a great tool, and you got to run it again.
Yeah, we did. So Rowdy was kind enough to throw it in the back of his truck this morning and bring it up. Once I knew it was the brake thing, I was going to just walk down and actually, because the manual said I could actually disconnect the brake sensor, and it would work fine.
And you don't need brakes going uphill.
No. Brakes would still work. It's just the sensor that they're on would be interrupted.
It's like, I wish we would have known that yesterday. That would have been a so easy fix.
Oh, I know.
But then you would not have learned this stuff.
It was great. It was great to learn about your tools. Yeah. So, I'm very happy that's working. And like I said, Rowdy was kind enough to throw it in the truck and bring it up this morning. And he helped me with the brakes and some adjustments in there, and he's kind of an expert in that, and I'm not.
He's a good guy to have around, and Roddy can fix anything.
Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah,
so it's good.
I was very happy with that, and then he took off on it. Like, see you later.
Yeah, we're here to help. We're out of here. Good. Well, is there anything else that we haven't talked about you'd like to share, or any ideas?
I don't know. You know, it's like this is the second time I've been to Bluff Creek. It's amazingly beautiful spot. I mean, we're back in the trees, back in the woods, and it's been a great time learning the ecology and the history and the camaraderie of all these people. I mean, this last night was hilarious when we were sitting down there and having dinner, and we had everyone down there.
About 19 of us.
Yeah, just all these people, and yeah, Tate and Kip and everyone.
This week was kind of special in a way. Besides having you here too.
Yeah, no, of course.
Is what we had. I forget the name of the groups, but we had a group that was looking for these giant aquatic lizards, aka salamanders.
Yeah.
The giant salamanders. So they've been working this area for 4 days.
Yeah.
I got to be with them yesterday, which is cool because we're looking for salamanders. So
they make you roll in the mud and look like a salamander.
No, I didn't have. No, we had to paint me up really good because we had trouble finding them, right?
Yeah.
So no, I kind of showed them areas where they can access it. We found some giant Pacific salamanders.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool, and there was also some young salmon, aka trouts.
Yeah.
Some today, whatever. Yeah. So there's little pockets of the trout are coming back.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And I showed them the film site.
Yeah.
We talked about that. I probably told them way too much information.
Yeah.
You know, too much information overload. But
you're very passionate about it. It's great. You gave me the personalized tour last year. It was awesome.
That's right. You actually helped me because I need to get a couple measurements.
Yeah.
And I need you to hold the measuring
tape. Hold the tape somewhere. Yeah.
Go up that hillside about 90-degree slope and just hang onto that branch and put that end of that tape against that thing. Yeah. And I'll rappel down with the other end. Yeah, that was fun with that too. We also had another group coming in that's working on another. They also did interviews. They looked at the film site. Mm-hmm. So we had 2 groups that were working on it, and then Jonathan was working on stuff. He's always working on stuff, so he was there. So a lot of. See, I didn't have to carry a camera around because everybody else had one. You know.
Yeah, perfect.
Everybody's running around with their own projects, and that's good to see that. It's good to see people embracing the phenomena and looking into the film site, ground zero.
Yeah, I think what has happened is over the years. I think I brought this up the other day. Was I listened to this guy nailed on the head. I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast, and I love when he interviews smart guys like scientists and things like that. Super smart people. I love their perspectives. And this guy was a mathematician working on some interesting versions of string theory and all that out there kind of math. And he brought the point up saying, everybody right now, like the entire, and this I've found tends to transcend a couple of different specialties like mathematics and physics and things like that. It's like the old guard in charge of all the current theories and how we do things. If you don't kind of subscribe to any of that stuff, you're a heretic or outcast.
Right. Yeah.
You can't get tenure, all these things. And he's like, the only way change has to happen is all these old guys just have to die. And then new ideas can start coming in place, and supplant these things. And I find that it seems like there's a new generation of people that are more interested in some of these odd topics.
You mean like asking questions?
Asking questions, questioning the status quo, new theories, new interests and excitement besides just the old Renee DeHinden and all those guys, that old guard of stuff. There's new stuff coming in, and just the thought that just the change in the way that people have perceived, say Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin and the film itself over the years, how it went from being just this hoax used car salesman stuff into something that is a bit more respected and at least has more of a lot of people looking at it with more open eyes than before.
Well, I agree because in my line of work that I did for a living, one of my functions was interpretation, which meant you talked about natural and cultural history and folklore and mysticism.
Yeah.
And as long as I called it folklore and mysticism, I was good to go. But if I start saying anything about science, wait a minute, we can't promote or support those things, It's,
right.
Yeah. And so that's fine. I like the evolution we're going through, and shows like Finding Bigfoot have opened the doors for young people, a new age of audience watchers that are curious.
And there's still some risk takers, like obviously Dr. Meldrum sticking his neck out in his field and at least investigating what this phenomenon is. What's making all these prints. What is all this?
Yeah, they're not all bear tracks.
No, they're not all bear tracks.
There's a large percentage of them are, but you're right, they're not all bear tracks. And there's any doubt, because I know we actually had Jeff Meldrum on it. We talked to him so long we had put it 2 episodes.
Oh, wow.
But bear tracks, mistaken identity in bear tracks. So that was one of the things that he deals with. So and I asked him, if it's not top secret, what are the factors that you look for in a foot impression in the ground that leads you down the path of thinking it's not a bear, or it's not a fake, or it's not human?
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. Before that, it used to be sacred information.
Yeah.
Because if I tell you, and then you'll know how to fake them.
Yeah. Well, Les Stroud tried it, right? In his Bigfoot series, he had to spend 20 or something $1,000 to try different cast impressions, and he made that mold of a conglomerate of a couple of different, like the Pacific Net Grays Harbor cast and a few others.
That's a nice
he
one.
put those things together, and then even then, after spending all that time, money, and effort, and he took that cast of those guys right off the bat, they were like, they knew something was wrong with it immediately, just by all the ones that they've seen.
Yeah, like a human. If I get this right. One runs straight up and down, one runs side to side. I can't remember. I get always confused. I can tell my right from my left because I took out a marker and put an L on this one, so I know which one it is.
That looks great.
Yeah,
that works good.
It's just like on primates. Like we have these arcs, loops, and whirls on our fingerprints. We look at our feet, and there's a pattern that runs. I'm taking off my shoe and double checking. Yeah, there's patterns that run on it, and the primates are kind of opposite of ours, but they also have those patterns on it. And that's kind of a dead giveaway. Does the track have those?
Sure.
Fracture points? Are they in the right positions?
Yeah.
Is the width proper? And is the heel narrow? Or is it wide?
Yeah. Well, I find it amazing when I've seen a few of his presentations and in person, and it's amazing to watch his stuff. And, like, you think you know a topic, and then you go in there, you see some of these guys give away something. It's like, oh my gosh, really? I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And I find it amazing that, at least in the footprint evidence, that the characteristics he has found in all these footprints is present all over the world in various different, wherever you want to call them, in honesty in Russia to those things. It's a common trait, which I find quite amazing. And not only that, a lot of times the prints, what they're finding out now, if they know about them now, they can go back and look at stuff from the past and see it there. So his argument is like, so either somebody is smarter than us, has been hoaxing us for longer than we can remember, or there's actually something to these.
That's the neat thing about that. And science is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes we get to a point, I bring this up occasionally, it's okay, all old research is based on science, factual evidence, show me, touch, feel, taste. Now we have a new movement of feelings.
Yes.
Portals, mind speak. And it's a whole different area that the old timers go, and it's abort the mission. It's just like, it's not comfortable. It's I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so here we are, that's coming up. So we have people doing research who aren't successful with the old school research methods. And now they're opening to the new school research methods.
Yeah.
And you go back far enough to when the native cultures, they're more of a spiritual approach to that. So we're almost going full circle in terms of looking at how we look at things. So, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think we're just about running out of time here. I'll let you go, and I appreciate your time. It was really good doing this this in the field podcast with you.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I'll probably see you again in a year, right? When you come back up to that. Now we'll have to keep it more than that, because you guys are always welcome here. We don't own I don't own the Six Rivers National Forest.
Right.
I'm not the keeper of the gate, but it's a place I go because it's closest, and it's kind of nice, and it's good to see new faces show up and. New ideas.
I'd like to come out more. My life is very structured. Like my schedule's out a month ahead of time, 6 weeks ahead of time. It's kind of funny how it works. So I have to plan ahead for a lot of things. But my next event that I know for sure is going to be Bartfoot.
Washington
Yeah.
in
so-
August.
Yeah.
And we call it Bart Trip because Bart Catino has something to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's his little shindig. I think it's his birthday party, something or other.
Yeah, well,
that's the history of it, I think.
For years, he's been organizing or getting together with the usually the BFRO crowd in Washington, and I've been on numerous, the Bumping Lake area, weird stuff. You know, we've investigated a bunch of stuff together and had a lot of weird things happen to us. But I do miss that, all my old friends up there in Washington.
Yeah, this is gonna be. I'm really kind of looking forward to meeting all these other people. I met Bart a couple years ago on one of Cliff's expeditions.
Yeah.
We've kept in touch. He's hooked me up with this therm guy, and so I picked up that pulsar. It was awesome. If anybody wants a pulsar at a good price, let me know.
Are you dumping it or?
No. I'll point you to the right guy who can get you one.
You're not getting rid of what you have.
No.
You're just sharing the wealth and telling us where we can go get something.
No, this thing is so awesome. I love it. I'm really excited to be out here with it this year. And like last night, it was really picking out. I mean, I was watching bats on this lake, just clear as day, just coming through and getting bugs and stuff, and picking out these deer that were walking across the ridge on the other side, and it was awesome.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled with it.
All right, I think that pretty much covers a lot of the basic stuff I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Damon, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Robert, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll have to do this again.
Yes.
These canyon walls carry my tune. The only one to hear my song are the coyotes and the wolves. But if I drink enough of this flask, I can